Robert Greene spent years studying the darkest, most hidden patterns of human behavior. He mapped them, named them, laid them bare in one of the most studied books of the last decade. Most people read his laws of human nature and immediately look outward. They use it to decode other people, to spot the narcissist, to identify the manipulator, to protect themselves from the envy hidden behind a smile. But here is what nobody tells you. The most uncomfortable and the most liberating way to read this book is not outward. It is inward. Because every law Greene identified in others lives in you too. And the moment you stop using it as a lens for the world and start using it as a mirror for yourself, everything changes. Welcome to Enter Self, where we go inward so we can move forward. Today, we are exploring Robert Greene's laws of human nature, but not the way you've seen it done before. Greene's book examines the psychology behind human interactions and self-awareness, analyzing the motivations, biases, and tendencies that influence behavior, drawing from evolutionary psychology, behavioral science, historical biography, and philosophy. Most people use these laws to understand others. Today, we use them to understand ourselves, because self-knowledge, real, unflinching, honest self-knowledge is the most powerful thing a human being can possess. Part 1. The Law of Irrationality. You are not as rational as you think. Greene's first law is the law of irrationality. You like to imagine yourself in control of your fate, consciously planning the course of your life as best you can. But you are largely unaware of how deeply your emotions dominate you. They make you veer toward ideas that soothe your ego. They make you look for evidence that confirms what you already want to believe. They make you see what you want to see, and this disconnect from reality is the source of the bad decisions and negative patterns that haunt your life. Sit with that for a moment. Every decision you were certain was logical. Every conclusion you were sure was objective. Every judgment you made about a person or situation filtered through the lens of what your emotional self needed to be true. When our emotions become inflamed because of certain pressures as we think about our anger, excitement, resentment, or suspicion, it intensifies into a reactive state. Everything we see or hear is interpreted through the lens of this emotion. We become more sensitive and more prone to other emotional reactions. The enter self question here is not who in your life is irrational. It is, in which areas of your life are you most convinced you are being rational while actually being entirely driven by emotion? Your relationships, your career choices, your self-image. Rationality is the ability to counteract these emotional effects, to think instead of react, to open your mind to what is really happening as opposed to what you are feeling. This is not a criticism. It is an invitation to become more honest with yourself than you have ever been. Part 2. The Law of Narcissism, the mirror you won't look into. Greene's second law is the law of narcissism. Narcissism exists on a spectrum. Healthy narcissism drives achievement, but deep narcissism destroys relationships. We are all narcissists to some degree, but the deep narcissists are particularly dangerous because they are so skilled at disguising it. Most people hear the word narcissist and immediately think of someone else. But Greene is asking you to look inward. Where in your life do you find it genuinely difficult to see another person's perspective when it conflicts with your own? Where do you secretly need to be the most important person in the room, even when you'd never admit it? Greene advises channeling narcissistic energy into empathy, understanding others' emotions and needs. Empathy fosters better relationships and enhances influence. The healthiest people are not those who have eliminated their narcissism. They are those who have become honest enough to see it and conscious enough to transform it into genuine curiosity about others. That transformation from self-absorption to empathy is one of the deepest acts of psychological growth available to us. Part 3. The Law of Compulsive Behavior. Your pattern is your prison. Greene's fourth law, the law of compulsive behavior, is perhaps the most personally confronting of all. Your character is your fate. Early patterns established in childhood repeat throughout life unless consciously addressed. Think about the patterns in your life. Not the ones you're proud of, the other ones. The way conflict always seems to find you in a particular form. The type of person you keep choosing in friendship, in love, in work who somehow always disappoints you in the same way. The moment in every opportunity where something in you self-sabotages. The point in every success where you find a way to pull back. There is a pattern to our life, particularly visible in our mistakes and failures. The most significant indicator of people's character comes through their actions over time. Greene's invitation is radical. Stop looking at the pattern as something that happens to you. Start looking at it as something that comes from you, from a deep unconscious blueprint formed in childhood that keeps recreating the same emotional environment because it is the only one that feels familiar. Ignoring human nature simply means that you are dooming yourself to patterns beyond your control and to feelings of confusion and helplessness. This should not upset you but liberate you. Seeing your pattern is not shameful. It is the beginning of freedom. Part 4. The law of envy, the emotion you refuse to admit. Greene's 11th law, the law of envy, is the one most people will skip past the fastest. Because it requires admitting something we have been taught to be deeply ashamed of. Envy is the most hidden and destructive of emotions. Watch for its subtle signs in others and in yourself. Envy occurs most commonly and painfully among friends. Here is the honest question Greene asks you to sit with. When someone in your life succeeds genuinely, visibly succeeds, what is the very first feeling that moves through you before the congratulations? Most people deny feeling envy. As social animals, not feeling envy is unavoidable. The person who cannot admit their own envy is controlled by it completely. They sabotage others without knowing why. They subtly undermine the people closest to them. They feel a quiet but persistent dissatisfaction with their own life that they can never quite name. Greene suggests moving closer to what you envy, spending time with the people you envy, and soon you might change your mind about them. Your sense of self-worth comes from within, not from without. The enter self practice here is simply this. The next time you feel that unnamed discomfort at someone else's success, don't perform the congratulations immediately. Pause, acknowledge what you actually feel, and ask what that feeling is revealing about what you most deeply want for yourself. Part 5. The Law of Self-Sabotage, the Enemy Within. Greene's 8th law, the law of self-sabotage, hits differently when you stop applying it to others. Everyone harbors a shadow side, unconscious impulses and desires often suppressed due to societal norms. Greene argues that acknowledging and integrating this side leads to greater self-awareness and emotional balance. Greene makes a distinction between the higher self and the lower self. The higher self is the one that accomplishes things. The lower self is the one that's too sensitive and escapes reality to get pleasure. It loses time and feels unmotivated. The lower self is stronger, and getting it under control requires effort and awareness. Think about the last time you were on the edge of something meaningful. A relationship that was starting to feel genuinely close. A creative project that was starting to feel genuinely good. An opportunity that was starting to feel genuinely possible. And something in you, something quiet and powerful and very old, found a way to pull back. This is not weakness. This is not a character flaw. This is the lower self doing what it was designed to do, protect you from the vulnerability of fully showing up for something that matters. Moving toward the higher self involves inner authority. This inner voice tells us to make some sort of contribution, to work for a higher purpose, to focus and prioritize, and to demand the best work for ourselves. The question Greene is really asking is, which self is running your life right now? And are you willing to do the work to change that? Part 6. The highest law, know yourself. Beneath all 18 laws, beneath every insight Greene offers about narcissism and envy and irrationality and compulsion, there is one foundational truth that the entire book is built on. You will work on bringing out your higher self, and through practice you will emerge a master of the art, able to thwart the worst that other people can throw at you, and to mold yourself into a more rational, self-aware and productive human being. But that mastery, Greene is clear, begins not with understanding others. It begins with understanding yourself. Self-awareness is the foundation of emotional intelligence. Recognize your own biases, triggers, and shadow sides. This is why Enter Self exists. Not to give you tools to manipulate the world around you, but to give you the courage and the framework to look honestly at the world within you, your irrationality, your narcissism, your compulsive patterns, your hidden envy, your self-sabotage. These are not your enemies. The more you grasp this, the easier it will be to react not with your emotions, but rather with the desire to understand where behavior comes from. You will feel much calmer in the process. And as this takes root in you, you will be less prone to moralize and judge people. Instead, you will accept them and their flaws as part of human nature. They are your teachers, your guides, your most honest map of the self that is waiting, beneath the performance, to finally be known. Robert Greene ended his book with a thought that most people overlook because they're too busy taking notes on everyone else. He wrote, "Man will only become better when you make him see what he is like. Not what others are like, what he is like. The laws of human nature are not a weapon, they are a mirror. And the person staring back at you in that mirror, with all their irrationality, their patterns, their envy, their self-sabotage, is not someone to be ashamed of. They are someone to be understood, deeply, honestly, compassionately. Because that understanding, that willingness to finally see yourself clearly, is where every genuine transformation in your life has always begun. Not out there, in here. If this perspective shifted how you see yourself, share it with someone who is ready to look inward today. Subscribe to Enter Self. Every week we go deeper into the psychology of who you truly are. Our video on what your emotional reactions are secretly revealing about you is linked right here. It connects deeply with everything Greene explores in the law of irrationality. Until next time, keep going inward. The mirror is waiting.